Okay, my name is Liz.Rohan, and I guess my literacy story, although it seems kind of like a boring story because it's something I told over and over, was how I became to be interested in writing, and that was from being a diarist. And I've actually just written a memoir about this, so I don't know why I'm tongue-tied about a topic, but I began writing the diary, and my grandma gave me a diary for Christmas when I was in 7th grade. I remember it was blue, and it had this kind of gold on it, engraving, and that same period when I got the diary was also when I had my very first boyfriend, David Fleming, and he was a year older than me, and he chose me as his girlfriend on the way back from this trip to Toronto. Am I supposed to be looking at you or the camera? Doesn't matter. The 7th and 8th grade math class, advanced math class, took this trip to Toronto, and I was kind of popular that day for some reason, and I was kind of fooling around with this kid named Charlie Tazia, and Dave's friend Ernie, who I knew, tapped me on the shoulder and said this guy wanted my phone number. So, probably that later on, I got a call from Dave, and so it was like 10:30 at night when he called me, so my dad the whole time was like hanging over the shoulder, like screaming at me, like to get off the phone. But anyway, he became my topic. Dave became my topic in my journal. And for good or ill, guys became my topic in my diary. So whether or not that's feminist or not, I'm trying to argue in this memoir that I wrote that it's a little more complicated than not being feminist. But that's kind of how it all started. That Dave ended up being my topic, and he was an exciting boyfriend in many ways, but most of it was just because he was older, he was cute, probably my first kiss, and then also there was a lot of drama because he was popular, and then his girlfriend who he broke up with to date me got all these 8th grade girls to be angry at me. So there was drama in that first diary. There was lots of drama. So if I really think about sort of how Dave influenced my writing, and he also influenced my high school career, coincidentally enough, he was also a writer. And since my dad was a newspaper reporter, being attracted to a writer was a little bit Freudian, but also I think that we were similar in the sense that we lived in a wealthy community, but we didn't necessarily have a lot of money, and we both sort of knew that if we were going to make it out, quote unquote, we'd have to work hard. Where we lived with people who basically their dad literally owned car dealerships or a tool and die, and so he became my role model. And so in that sense, but it was also painful too because he also, my best friend actually ended up dating him, so there's a lot of pain. But in any case, this is what was in these diaries, okay, the story of Dave. And I think, maybe I don't know if there's another way to kind of wrap up the story, but years later, so this is in 2006, I was at the the Super Bowl is in Detroit. And I was walking around, they had this Winterfest. And I thought, wow, who would I know who would have tickets to the game? And I thought, Dave, because he is a writer for ESPN. And he has these columns called the Phlegm File, which basically is, see how unfeminist is this? I'm giving you Dave's literacy narrative. so he ended up having this column in high school called the Phlegm File. Or no, the Ramblings of Phlegm. And now he has a column for ESPN called the Phlegm File. So basically it's just taking his high school career and just writing about football. So I ended up, and now this is my literacy narrative is going to get a little more serious, but so I thought about him and his column. I composed his column in my head because I know him so well. I know what he's going to say. And I went home and I read the column, and I emailed it to our friend Bill. I said, oh, look at Dave's talking about Detroit, you know. And I went to sleep, and I had a dream, a nightmare actually, about these baby boys. And they were dying one by one on this operating table. So it was this nightmare. And I got up, and I went, and I just happened to check my email just for something to do. And Bill had sent me, isn't that too bad about Dave's son? Dave's son had died, and he had written a memoir about his son died when he was in the womb, basically right before he was supposed to be born. So that kind of freaked me out because I almost had a high school flashback, literally. It's almost like as much as I wrote about it, I didn't remember the feeling of what it was like to have this connection with him. it was like a strong. So fast forward about maybe 4 months later, I was going through my notebooks from graduate school. When I was in graduate school, I didn't keep a diary, and I had jotted off a dream that I had about Dave. And in the dream, he ran up to me with his son, and his son was very sick, and I offered my condolences. And I had the dream in 2001, and that's exactly when his son died.
I know.
So that was another one of those sort of experiences of remembering this connection I had. So I ended up reading Dave's memoir, and it was very emotional to read that. I mean, I know that when we're in academia, we know people who write books, but not people that we kind of grew up with. So it was a weird experience of reading the sequel. So I do feel like since we're both writers, there's still that competitive spirit, because I really feel like he beat me by writing his book first. So I've got to write my book. But his book was literally kind of structured as a rainbow of when basically when his son died, and then when his daughter was born. It's very well written. He's a very, very good writer. So basically, in the memoir I wrote recently that I completed, is I tried to get to the bottom of that relationship between my diaries and writing about guys, and then also my intuitiveness, and how all of those things were sort of a source of strength, but then also a source of pain. And I'm not really necessarily sure about the gender implications of it, but these were my topics, and this is the world that I grew up in. Is that we write about boys. So.